Welcome back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess who's back again. Kim, Erica and Kelby are back. Tell your friends. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
This is Things You Ought to Know. I'm your co-host, Kelby Finati.
And I'm your other co-host, Erica Arnautovic.
And we took some time off over the summer. This is our opening to season 2B.
Yep.
Perfect timing. We didn't do it intentionally after the big autism announcement, but there was a big headline. And so leave it to us. We're going to talk about it.
We are going to really dive into it today.
Yeah. So if you're new to us, a little bit of background is I'm an autism mom, 6-year-old nonverbal little boy named Porter.
And I am also an autism mom to a little boy who is 5 named Luca. I am also a nurse practitioner at a pediatric office, and I specialize in autism. So I diagnose and screen for autism as well.
Yeah, so we get a great clinical perspective and then just both a mom perspective into all things autism.
Yeah, what you ought to know.
Yeah.
So
we have a few segments. So first we're going to just catch up. Then we'll talk about the big headline, our opinions and insight on it, bringing in some clinical knowledge as well from your perspective.
Yep.
And then we'll go into our Let's Whine About It segment. If you're not familiar with that, if it wasn't 1:00 on a Tuesday, we would be cracking open a bottle of wine.
Yes.
But it's our segment to just kind of light air whine about something, whatever it is in the autism community, our life, whatever it was that week. It's that segment to just kind of air it out and whine about it without any judgment.
Yes.
And then our last segment is always things you ought to know. So we try to give you one thing to leave that you ought to know and that you can implement back into your everyday life.
I'm really glad you said all of that. I'm just here for the ride. No, I'm just kidding. No, that was well put. We have a lot to talk about today, but I want to start with, tell me what has been going on with you other than, I'm going to let you say your big announcement.
Yeah, so we're in my new house.
Woo!
So much needed time off over the summer. We bought our first home. Michael and I have been together 13, almost 14 years, and we've just kind of been bouncing around the U.S. If you don't know our backstory, I grew up in South Carolina, and then we went to Omaha, Nebraska for a few years, moved back to Charlotte area for a year, had our son Porter, moved up to Boston at the height of the pandemic. We're up there for 3 years, and then now we've been back in South Carolina area for the last 2 years. And because of all the moving and bouncing around, we've never purchased our home until now. So we're planting roots back in my hometown. And it's been a huge change for us, but a very welcome change. Yes. We love being homeowners. All the house improvement things have been going on. Porter transitioned pretty well to it. I was a little nervous on just his daily routine, but he also has been used to kind of bouncing every 2 years to a new home environment. So he did really well. You want to tell you, the first thing I was nervous about was nighttime.
Yeah.
Let me tell you, the first thing I was worried about was security of the home.
Absolutely.
So first thing we did was put top locks on the doors, like all the security things that you can think of. We are Fort Knox here.
Yep.
Amen. Yeah.
That's an autism home, people.
Exactly.
Yeah, try to break in our home. We dare ya.
Yeah. Well, we also
break in or break out.
We have but he really did well. This is a funny story, and if you've been listening to like the Headphone Bandit, if you remember that story about Porter or any of our little fun Porter stories, I have a new one for the crew. So first night we get into the house and Michael is the one putting Porter to bed. I'm putting Parker to bed. But we try to at least do all a hug and a kiss goodnight in Porter's room. And then we were going to close the door instead of doing like a baby gate that we normally do, just to see like what he did with that. He did really good with the door.
Awesome.
But Porter's way is slamming it in our face. So he got out of his bed, took us to the frame of the door, not only had us stand at the door, but in the doorway. He wanted to slam it in our face, and we say good night, and he would say good night, like his way is good night, slam. And we laughed. So for probably 2 weeks of moving into the home, I would be putting Parker to bed, almost have him asleep. You know how this goes. And then you hear slam, and I'm like, well, Porter's going to bed, I guess.
Good night.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I love it. He's just like, this is my time now.
He really is.
Thank you, but see you later.
Exactly. Never a dull moment with him.
There's no PC ever. It's like, this is how I feel. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
Or he does want it to hit you. He
Yeah.
literally wanted it like slamming her. But he likes to line up his cars or his animals, like his stuffies, and he'll slam them in the door. It's just his thing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it probably is a really cool thing to visualize.
yeah.
To be fair.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then it's like that thing, that object is gone. It's behind the door. So
Yeah.
he likes doing that. But yeah, it's been fun. Parker's been transitioning well into the home. Parker started a pre-K program.
Wow.
Yeah, so
big
he's
boy.
doing 4 days a week, kind of like a mommy and me program. He's doing a half day. And that really helps me kind of have a minute. I'm a certified chauffeur now, though. I am bouncing between therapies and another update. So yeah, Parker started pre-K, but Porter, we finally got him into speech and OT.
How's he doing?
Doing great. We got Tefra South Carolina Medicaid finally approved.
Yay!
And I can't remember if I updated everyone that.
That's an act of Congress, y'all.
It really is. It took me
No, the last time I think you were like, that was your one about it.
Yeah.
Was the Tefra nonsense.
Okay, yeah. So it took me 18 months to get approved. You know, if you don't know the backstory, they lost it, then it was there, and then it got sent to the wrong department. It was for straight Medicaid. He's not getting straight Medicaid. It needed to be for Tefra. I'll save you the gamut.
But Tefra, just so that all our listeners know, is South Carolina's version of disability Medicaid when you have private insurance, but you have a child with any type of disability. So it is, therefore, it kind of picks up whatever your private insurance doesn't cover, because ABA can be several thousand a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and for him specifically, it was super needed because within a 50-mile radius, I could only find 2 speech providers through our private insurance. And now that he got Tefra approved, it opened up a world of different therapies that we could get him into. So within Tefra getting it approved within a month, I had him evaluated, the assessment, all that, and then he was starting services for speech and OT. And he's doing really well with it.
That's awesome.
Really good.
He likes his therapist and everything. Good.
It's very play-based, which is exactly what I wanted. They've got a huge gym with all the sensory updated items. So he's in a good space for it.
I love that.
Me
and
too.
He's getting both speech and OT at the same place.
Same place.
Okay.
Different sessions.
Yes.
But same place. And
Perfect.
his ABA is at another location still.
Right. Okay. Awesome. I love it. Good job. So lots of things.
Lots of updates. Yeah. So how about you?
Oh, well, my kids started school. Luca started kindergarten. So that was big.
Huge.
Yeah. Whoa. So we are in, the public school system now. And, he did like the 3K, 4K program through, and I actually did something very creative with his schedule. So I, may not be the most popular person at the school board, but my son is getting what he needs, and that's the most important thing to me. So I basically decided we were going to do a half day of kindergarten, and sometime between K through 2, because that's their classroom is K through 2.
Okay.
So kindergarten through 2nd grade, and there's like 5 or 6 kids, I think, to 3, like 1 teacher and 2 paras.
Okay.
It's amazing.
That's really good.
Amazing ratio. Yeah.
Especially for that range of age.
Right, for 3 years of age. So I'm just going to try to basically extend it 1 year. It really doesn't matter if it's a repeat of K, a repeat of 1st, or a repeat of 2nd.
Okay.
Is kind of what I'm understanding, but we're going to repeat for a full day because he had just turned 5 anyways, and in the state of South Carolina, kindergarten is not required. So he is still getting his full day of ABA. He gets picked up by his PCA at 11:30, and he does ABA from about 11:45 until 5:30.
That's really good.
So yes, and he loves school. We drew Heather Petrusik from last season. She came on last season with us, and of course we love her. But we drew another really, really fantastic teacher this year. So I feel like we've just really hit the jackpot. And then Zara's doing well. Lots of transitions. I'm a newly single mom, since January. I'm almost a year in now. So holiday season coming up. This will be our first holiday season, kind of as just like the 3 Musketeers. So it's a lot of changes, but I feel like the kids are more resilient to it than I imagined they would be.
They
So,
always surprise us.
yeah.
I think it's our mom anxiety where we're like, or parent caregiver anxiety just in general of like,
Yeah.
how are they going to handle this? And you think through all the different scenarios that could happen, and then you put them in it and you're like, oh, you're actually do better than I am.
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah.
So,
I'm like, huh. I keep waiting for the shoe to drop. And, there's like little things here and there, of course, but I feel like overall the kids have done really well. We have, which that's going to be my whine about it. So I'll kind of preface my whine about it here. We, for a while, we're seeing an uptick in Luca's SIB or self-injurious behavior. And he had really never done this before, but he started hitting his head against things. And I know you've experienced that with Porter. And, it's like one good hit and, on the wrong thing or the wrong area, and that's a concussion.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really, really frustrating. And then just trying to co-parent with a special needs child. Those are my two whines about it. So we'll go into that later, but
yeah, I'm excited to hear that.
So there's a lot of ups and downs, but some overall a very positive, start to the school year.
Good,
So,
good.
yeah.
Sounds like we both had a good summer then.
We did. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, and thank y'all, the listeners, for giving us that time to be moms and
Have to draw mom boundaries sometimes.
welcoming us back for season 2B. We're excited. So we had an announcement that happened in the autism community that kind of took it by storm.
Yeah.
I think is the term how you use it, but
Yes. Quite literally.
Yeah. And I think in that storm, there's a very divided community right now.
Yes.
So, our goal of the conversation right now is to talk about it transparently and openly.
Yep.
I think I speak for both of us when I say this, just to give a little bit of a precursor that these are our opinions as an autism mom, and for you probably as a clinical and an autism mom, but it does not reflect the opinions of our employers or any organization we're associated with. This is our personal opinion and from our lived experience.
Yes. Yes.
So with that being said, let's dive into it.
Let's dive into it. So there's some big banger points, if you will, that I'm going to talk about. I want to kind of get into there's some big banger points here that I want to kind of start set the stage with, if you will. So $50 million have been spent in funding across 13 major research groups. So we're trying to focus on combining genetics, environment, all of these. We want to understand, the saying in medicine, genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. We say that about everything else, and all of a sudden we're not allowed to say it about autism. And so that is something that I definitely want to touch on, and one of the the points of this. There's also new federal guidance that Tylenol used during pregnancy. That was the announcement. We'll get into that. But, that was one of the things that was announced. And then the big thing that I think we're both really excited about, both from me as a provider, but also as a mom, I can say I already have my son on this medication, but FDA approval of Leucovorin, which is just, folinic acid, it's a prescription form of folinic acid, which is, a B vitamin derivative. Derivative. I can talk. So I want to, let's talk about it.
Yeah, I feel like Leucovorin is just it's the chef's kiss on that announcement. I'll also tell you what my chef's kiss was, but I'll save it to the end.
Okay.
So let's talk about the funding.
Yeah.
I hear a lot online how there's no funding, they're stripping funding. And that is true to a certain extent. They have stripped funding from Medicaid and various other departments. But I think this announcement of pouring $50 million into autism research across 13 different projects. So to me, what that tells me I have no clinical experience outside of, assisting in the clinical atmosphere, but not as a provider. So I'm not a scientist or a data analyst in that regard. I am the layperson sitting on their couch hearing this or reading about it and figuring out what does that mean. I'll tell you from my perspective, that means they really took into consideration to not just pour that money into a research institution, one and just getting singular data out of that one. They spread the love, basically.
Mm-hmm. They wanted across multiple different research companies. Yeah.
And I really appreciate that they took that stance with it, because you hear a lot about like, well, this study says this, okay, but really let's dive into who's funding that study.
Right.
What is the goal of the study? All the things that come along with what is produced out of that study.
Yeah, you have to read between the lines of anything, you know, and especially nowadays, you have to read between the lines of everything to know who you know, proposing this, what is the agenda behind it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree. I think it's really great that they took that into consideration, because even like from my perspective, if I were, which I'm not qualified to do this, but if I were the clinical research person to go in, you know, as an autism mom, my agenda is going to be quite different potentially than somebody who has different views than I do, whether they be just simply political views, because that can be so polarizing. And, you know, sometimes we pull that in, we're human. And so spreading this across so many different people and outlets of research is great.
I think it's a chef's kiss again, because I really think like unless you're going to give us more money into the research, which I think this conversation starts that funding ability.
Absolutely.
Not even just from the government funding, but from private funding,
Mm-hmm.
because it opens up the conversation now for everyone to hear.
Yeah.
I think there was also some things to consider that they put out there with that is the various parts of what they're going to be studying within those 13 projects. They used a certain term, and I want to make sure I get it correctly with how they stated it. So verbatim, they said that the initiative will combine genomic data, environmental exposure data, clinical and behavioral records, and more. So that's just more. So using an exposomics approach, I had to ask Erica, do you know what that means? She was like,
let me Google it.
Basically, it just means what we listed out. It's a comprehensive look at environmental triggers, anything else that it could possibly be.
Yes,
that could
external
be
to genetics.
A reason to the increase in autism numbers. And I don't think we actually got to speak on that since our closing of season 2B, or 2A. But the new numbers for autism are...
You're going to have to say it.
Okay, so we went from 1 in 36 to now 1 in 31.
Okay, is that what they are now?
In California, 1 in 12 boys.
Yes, I knew the California was 1 in 12 boys.
Yeah. And California is some of the leading data. They're the ones that pour in their data faster and quicker than any other state. So you can always look to them, from my understanding at least, you can always look to them for what's to come.
Okay.
So that kind of opens up the conversation now to let's like really talk about what this means. We've hit the point of their cutting funding. Yes, they have in some departments, but look at what they are doing. 50 million poured into 13 different projects.
Yes.
In various different things. They're not pouring it into just vaccines. They're not pouring it just into fluoride or whatever there could be a conversation around. It is a comprehensive look at it. So, let's talk about though, what does this mean and how we want to kind of openly give our opinions on it.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Okay. Let's start with this.
Okay.
Where were you? Did you listen to it live?
I did not listen to it live.
Okay.
I went back and listened to it. And I'm going to be 100% honest here. When he said Tylenol is the cause, I kind of went, come on, Trump. You know, like I really did. I kind of slumped back and I was like, this is something we've known about. Like that could be a potential, like, you know, environmental trigger here. But personally, I have a level 3 severe child, non-speaking child, and I am very funny about taking medications during my pregnancy, and I maybe took 1 dose of Tylenol when I likely had COVID back in January of 2020, which was my first trimester of pregnancy. So I had that flu-like illness in the first trimester of pregnancy, which is also something that we have known to be a risk factor for autism. But I took maybe one dose, and I was like, don't want to take any more.
Yeah.
I was doing saline spray. I was trying everything else because I'm very funny about medication during pregnancy, both of my kids. So that kind of was like, "Ugh." And then he followed up with Leucovorin, and I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, so there was two very different, initial responses to that. But I did have to go back. My dad actually said it to me. He had to pick me up because my transmission blew. And so he was, my chauffeur for a few weeks to work. And so he was like, well, he made the announcement. And I was like, and he was like, Tylenol. And I was like, So, yeah. But tell me about you.
I was waiting for the 45 minutes that they kept us waiting because they said it was going to go live at 4:00. So Trump, if you're listening to this, get better time management because we mamas have things to do. I can't sit in front of the computer or the TV waiting for you for 45 minutes, sir. Even though you are the president, I cannot.
Come on.
But Michael and I both, we just took a minute and sat in his office and just kind of we're waiting, and my anxiety was building. And if you follow me on TikTok or social media, I kind of put out a video of leading up to the conversation because it was already starting to be in the media of Trump's going to say it's Tylenol vaccines. Trump's going to say it's this. And so we kind of had a base knowledge of what it was probably going to be talked about. And those are two things that we've been talking about in this community. If you've been having open ears or open minds to the conversation, it's been a conversation. These aren't new.
Yeah.
It's new probably to the people who have never heard it or aren't in our community as being able to hear it. So it didn't hit as hard. I can tell you though, I felt validated. I went into listening to him with an open mind and an open heart, and just understanding what they were going to say. I just wanted to be able to be presented the information. I will say, does he say, I've said this in the past, he does not say it. He does not represent our community in the best way when he speaks about it because he can be very harsh and brash with his wording.
Yeah.
So there is always criticism that I can give and see and validate how other people see that with him. Absolutely.
Yes. Absolutely.
I will say though, if you remove the emotions and just go into the conversation with logic, then, which is very hard to do.
Absolutely.
It's always going to be an emotional trigger for us. But, I was just sitting there and I was listening and I was like, okay, we're going to get to the Tylenol conversation. I have been told this. My first pregnancy, I was not told this. My second pregnancy, I was told this. Avoid it at all times. Because I went into the pregnancy conversation with my provider of, my oldest is autistic. What do I need to know if there's anything new about information? What do I need to know to avoid, to not do, to do, all the things? And they told me there is some link, there's not verified link, there's some link to this, so please avoid it at all costs. And I did with my second. I avoided it at all costs. I suffer from migraines. And quote unquote from the president, I toughed it out. And because I was absolutely terrified of because I did take it with my first pregnancy.
Okay.
And not often. It was still sparingly, but I took it.
Yeah.
And so if I had a migraine, I was taking it. Now with my second pregnancy, I didn't.
Right.
And so just listening to it, I was like, okay, we got through the conversation about Tylenol. Here's my take on how he presented it to the masses. I see it like this. You're on a road at a school location, and there's cross guards there. Trump is a cross guard person, and he's guarding.
Oh, Lord.
I know, right?
Just kidding.
He's guarding the children. We, as America, as autism community, are the children he's guarding. Someone from the school comes to tell Trump, hey, we just found out that this is a possible link to your children getting hit in direct contact from a car. What are you going to do as the protector over America or over, in this scenario, the analogy, the children as the cross guard? You're going to hold up a huge stop sign that says stop.
Yep.
Don't do whatever it is that I was just told could cause you to get hurt.
Right. Until we can do the proper research.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was very much like heavy on the stop, don't take it, just don't do it. But he also said, I am not a medical professional. He said that, like, they're probably going to tell you something different, pointing to his medical administration. And they did. So how I see this is now the principal came out and he's standing behind Trump, which is the medical community that is giving him this information.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're like, hang on, we're not saying complete stop. We're saying caution. So now they're switching their sign from a stop sign to a caution sign.
Right.
And that's like, if you can follow me on this analogy, like that was like a visual in my head of how I can probably explain it to people, is he was just trying to protect everyone from it furthering. If there was any kind of link to it,
yep,
it still needs to be researched. It still needs to be verified. But there's 3 major institutes that have said there is link to it. Harvard, Mount Sinai. I mean, I don't want to list them incorrectly. Can't remember them off the top of my head, but 3 major research institutions have found a link. So he got information and then was like, just don't do it. Just stop.
Yeah.
And I get that can be fearful for the people, but I would rather be given a stop sign than a green light.
Me too.
And then possibly get hit by a car
Me
in
too.
this situation.
Me too.
And
I mean, I think if you and I could go back, if I could go back, and this may be very controversial, but my son is truly disabled from his autism.
Mm-hmm.
I love him. He's got amazing qualities. Please don't take me wrong when I say this. If I could go back, and if it was that one dose of Tylenol I took and reverse that dose of Tylenol,
I would tough it the out.
I would tough it the out.
I would.
If I knew that is what caused it.
Exactly.
And you can't, I would like to pose this question to any listener who might be pregnant and maybe completely disagrees with us. If you're pregnant right now or planning to get pregnant and you have this information, will you take Tylenol?
I think there is a small but very loud community on the internet that is taking the Tylenol and chugging it, trying to prove a point. And the one mom is now in the hospital and she has basically killed herself and her unborn child because she did that. And so the ones that answer in that way, that's for you to handle whenever you get to wherever the good Lord's taking you.
Yeah.
But for me, in my house, we ain't taking it.
No.
And I'm thankful that he gave a stop sign. And I'm more thankful for the medical community that came behind him and said, hang on, we're just giving a caution.
Yep.
Still talk to your provider. They said this on live TV. They said, still speak with your provider. And then they sent out a letter from the NIH saying, providers work with your patients and figure out the best course of action and of care. Clearly, if you're in need of it and it's the last resort, but there are people that have a small, what is it called? Side belly pain, belly band pain you get.
Yeah.
There's things that happen in pregnancy. Yeah. And I say small ailments. They can be large ailments sometimes. Very, very painful. And people are taking Tylenol like it's candy sometimes because they have been given a green light.
Right.
So, in my opinion, how I viewed how it was communicated with us, it was not the best way, but Trump held a stop sign. Mm-hmm. And then the medical community came behind him with the information and the data that they have from good research to say this is a caution.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the most important thing that I took from it, and I think we spoke about this very briefly, I think it was the day of or the next day after the announcement came. The biggest thing that I took from it was profound autism finally is being spoken about on the world stage.
Exactly.
And that, like, I don't care if you're level 1, level 2, level 3, level 20, okay? I know that there's only 3 levels. I'm saying, but I don't care where you are. If you're a level 1, if you're going to be advocating, in my opinion, for the entire community, which if we're saying this is a big spectrum and we're advocating for not only me and my, disability or my different obstacles that I have to overcome, I'm going to advocate for everybody. That includes my son who is non-speaking and can't tell me, Mommy, my ear hurts. Mm-hmm. I have to play guessing game with my child. So as a mama, I say, I want my child to have a voice. And honestly, Trump gave my child a voice.
Exactly.
For the first time that I can recall, my child and children like ours who are profoundly disabled from autism were given a voice on a world stage, and it's being talked about, it's being researched. If it comes back to it's just genetics, fine.
Mm-hmm.
But show me.
Yeah.
Show me the money. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That is where I and again, as a medical provider, one of the very first things I learned from one of my anatomy and physiology teachers, actually in high school, was genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger. And as I spoke to Luca's geneticist, and he agrees with me, it's not just genetics. Why are we saying this? And it drives me insane when like a psychologist or somebody else is like, stop it, it's just genetics, and I'm like, as a medical provider, I am telling you, genetics loads the gun, environment pulls the trigger nearly every time. So I will not accept a full, this is solely genetic, until it is proven beyond a reasonable doubt.
Yeah, and
we're in the court of law now.
Exactly. I will say to piggyback off of that, I think it's doing a disservice to the geneticists, the top leading scientists that are giving this information to the President of the United States.
Yes.
They're not giving him lies. They're not giving him altered data. This is hardcore evidence that there is a link. And let's get into that really quick. Causation versus correlation versus causation, blah, 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 however you want to say it.
Yep.
Yes. Causation, or what is it? Correlation does not equal causation. Thank you. Common sense. We all know that.
Right.
I will tell you what it does do, though. Mm-hmm. It leads to causation.
Exactly. The conversation has to start somewhere.
Exactly.
We're starting the conversation on a world freaking stage.
Exactly.
Can I get an amen?
Amen. I put that out there on my social media too. I've said, what other president has ever given not only one, but two autism mothers a world platform to present their lived experience with level 1 autism and profound autism level 3?
Yep.
They gave us the spectrum. You could have put a level 2 up on our mom too, but they gave us both ends of the spectrum, and they're both hard. Both of them said, and we're saying thank you to the president, to the administration, for bringing forth this information and presenting it to them.
Yep.
And like I said again, if I had, and I've said this on my social media too, I gave this analogy. If my best friend was on fire, I'm not going to block the firefighters from bringing you water to put you out of fire.
Thank God, that's why I'm your friend.
I know, right? But we're on fire as autism moms, as level 3 profound severe autism. Every day is our life. We are on fire.
Yep.
And the Trump administration had a bottle of water on that day during that announcement, and they were giving it to so many other parents out there to say, there's Leucovorin now, or we're going to pour more research and funding into research.
Yep.
We're going to tell you, like, hey, there's this possible link. Don't take anything else to avoid future children having it.
Yep.
He just possibly saved so many parents. And what's the alternative to not taking it? Like they kept saying, he kept saying, so what's the alternative to not taking it? You may just have to deal with a migraine or the bell, whatever it is. But again, talk to your provider if you're in a lot of pain and you need to be able to take something. That's not for me to decide.
Or if you have some high fever, like that's what everybody is like trying to say, like that. You know, if the mother has this super high fever or something like that, or is like constantly under distress, like that could be causing, you know, neurodevelopmental changes as well. Okay, again, he didn't say you can't have, like, you know, here's this, but if I'm taking it for pain, for me, I want all the facts.
Yeah, exactly.
I want all the facts because I'm a mother at time of conception for me, and that is my child to protect from the time they're in my belly until the day I die.
Exactly.
And so that is just something that I feel very strongly about, and I feel like every mother should be given all of the information, no matter what, you know, socioeconomic status you come from, what color you are, what he gave it to everyone to use as you feel appropriate. And I don't feel like it was a scare tactic. Like, there's nothing to gain from this. There's the only thing that, I mean, there's nothing for that side to gain from this. People are so turned off because of politics, and they're refusing, in my opinion, and I'm probably gonna get a lot of hate for saying this, and that's okay. But in my humble opinion, if you can take the fact that it is Donald Trump standing up there saying it, take it out of the whole equation and just listen to what he's saying. If you are in the autism community, whether you are a provider, a psychologist, a therapist, a mom, whatever, of any level child, and you are not taking this information and at least keeping an open mind to it and allowing some open dialogue between you and your patients, or within your own home even, I don't feel like you're doing the full service that you should be doing to either your patient or your child. That's my opinion. Forget his politics. This is about children's lives, families' lives. Period. That's my opinion. Like, yeah. You're crazy not to at least consider it.
Mm-hmm. I will piggyback off of your statement. I agree with you 100%. I'd like to add, I'll be blunt. I believe if you can't see past the big orange scary man saying it, you have more hatred in your heart. Let me say this again, closer to the mic. You have
say it with your chest.
You have more hatred in your heart than you do for him, mm-hmm. for Trump, than you have love for your own child.
Yep.
Let that sink in. Take it as you wish. I don't mean it in like a horrible way. I mean it in a very matter-of-fact way.
Yep.
That's an issue. And if you can't see past him as the individual presenting the information, mm-hmm. then at least look behind him. Look at RFKJ. Look at Dr. Oz. Look at some of, not even them as forward-facing people that are representing this.
Right.
Look at the team behind him.
Right.
That has the credentials, that has the validation to be able to do these studies and the research. And they have been suppressed. And the one study didn't even want to come out because he didn't want to lose his job or mm-hmm. his credibility. Mm-hmm. So he kept it under wraps for how many ever years. So it's like, but give them the credit. Why are you discrediting all of them? Mm-hmm. And I think what we've touched on both is that Trump, in my opinion, should be given the ultimate autism advocate certificate right now, because he provided the largest, biggest mouth to say autism on a world platform. The world follows what the United States does. Mm-hmm. So we make a statement and a stance like that, the world will follow. There's millions that could be possibly, I'm not saying it is, but possibly saved from a severe autism disability.
Yeah.
Because of a statement he made of just don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't take it. And then his medical representation saying, be very cautious.
Yeah.
Be very cautious and really speak to your providers before taking this medication.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could not agree with you more. I want to clarify that, we're not saying that if you have openly listened to what Trump says and you just don't necessarily agree with it, that we feel like, I think we're saying if you can't even listen to what he is saying because you just hate his politics so much, or you hate the fact that he is Donald Trump and he can be, crass and he can be like kind of, disturbing in some ways. Yes, I get that. Like, I hear you. I don't love the way that he necessarily speaks either. But again, I agree. He, on a world platform, advocated for my child. Mm-hmm. The president of the United States advocated for my child and me as mm-hmm. his mom. And so I can do nothing but say thank you for that.
Yeah. So thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, RFKJ, for bringing it to the forefront. And everybody wants to discredit RFKJ, but I will say, for 20 plus years, he has been boots on the ground with autism moms. Jenny McCarthy, I can't I think that's her name, but she's been on the big doctor shows speaking of this and advocating for her disabled child. And he has been right there alongside of them. They've been working in tandem for 20 plus years. So you can't say that he doesn't know anything.
Yeah.
That's a black and white statement that's untrue. He knows a lot.
Yeah.
He knows a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And he has advocated for us time and time and time again.
Yeah.
And he finally got the opportunity to do it on a public platform, a world platform. So thank you for being bold enough to do it.
Yeah.
And now we will follow up and continue to put it out there and be bold enough to say it. And I want to touch on the comment that's always said right now of, let me say, what do you feel when I say you did not cause Luca's autism?
A mixture of emotions, to be honest. I mean, in one sense, of course, I feel relief because there's always mom guilt. Like, if you're a mama, you know there's mom guilt always. It's what could I have done better? Did I do something? Should I have washed my hands that one time that maybe caused me to get COVID from that patient? You know, like, you always go back and you try to replay what happened.
Mhm.
You do, like, from time to time, obviously, as you kind of go through the grief process of, you know, accepting the diagnosis. You know, I think that there's always that. But also, there's a part of me that gets a little bit like, well, why would you think I did?
I know. Why?
Like, I didn't think that until you said that.
Mhm.
Do you know what I mean? So
Oh, yeah.
there's two sides of that. There is a sense of relief of, okay, thank God nobody's looking at me like you're just a bad mom. But then the other side of me is like, well, no shit.
Yeah.
No shit, I didn't cause this.
Yeah.
I would never have willingly brought this on. Say, yeah, give me a child who can't tell me, Mommy, I love you.
Right.
Like, verbally, right? Like, he shows me. But, like, yeah, let me have a child who is suffering in some ways to be able to just communicate basic needs and wants.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that. That's where I was like, is this like reverse psychology? I'm really confused here because I never once heard him say that. I went back and read the entire transcript. I never once heard him say it or read him say, you caused this for your child. He didn't say that.
Mhm.
He didn't say that. And now, and it's just in my opinion, it is a social media trend to get clicks and to get views. You didn't do this. No one said I did.
Right.
No one said I did. Why are you saying I did?
Right.
If anybody's putting more fingers, it's you right now to make me think and question, like, why are you even saying that? The president didn't say that. The administration didn't say that.
But all that to say, I didn't cause Porter's autism.
Right.
You didn't cause Lucas' autism. Let's just make a statement. No one caused it. And no one said that. So we shouldn't even have to say that. But my thing is that I think you lost the plot. You meaning whoever keeps saying that he says that Tylenol is the cause for autism. Vaccines are the cause for autism.
False.
No one said that.
False. He didn't say
He
that.
never said it. The plot, in my opinion, was that the conversation started. He put two mothers up there to talk about their lived experience on a world platform. That's the plot. That's what I'm going to take away from it. And then the follow-up to that is that the FDA approval of Leucovorin.
Yeah.
So we don't have time today to really dive into that.
No.
But that is going to be our ought to know part. So we'll save that for just a little bit. But let's close out our heavy conversation.
Yes.
And get into more lighthearted conversations. But thank you for being open to hearing our opinions on that.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can give some insight as not only a medical provider, but also to moms sitting here and living it every day in the trenches of the level 3. But we'll close it out and go ahead and now we're going to talk about our segment of Let's Whine About It. So you had two things you wanted to whine about. Whine away.
Okay, so here's my whining. So I am going through a separation, obviously, and you know, my children's father doesn't necessarily agree with all of the ABA things, necessarily Luca's AAC device, which is his voice, and so really, really struggling with figuring out how to best co-parent. And the court system is not set up for co-parenting a child with special needs. Like, there are some safety things that I have concerns about not because I think he is a bad dad. I'm not bashing fathers here. So please, like, that's not, but there are just safety things about Luca that, you have to kind of keep in communication with his ABA therapist. And, you have to kind of continue to like grow and evolve with Luca as Luca's parent, just like with any child. Right. But, we're really struggling with that right now. And so, that has been a big issue for us because, he's worked so hard. Luca has worked so hard learning how to use his voice. And if one parent doesn't agree with it and it's just not being used over there, that's time lost that we could be using it. That's also taking away his voice. And I can't seem to get the court system to understand, would it be acceptable for you? And this is how I want to phrase it. Would it be acceptable for you to put a tape over my daughter who is neurotypical and 8 years old? So she obviously can, she can tell you, she'll spill the tea. So would it be acceptable if he put a piece of tape over her mouth for the weekend? No. You would call that neglect, abuse, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
You would. Why is it not the same? Why is it not viewed the same?
Yeah.
And it's not.
What if can you bring it from like a medical perspective, if that's a medical device? And if it would be like denying a type 1 diabetic of their insulin in the other parent's home?
I will certainly try that route.
I
feel
mean, in
like
my opinion, it's a necessary medical device for our child.
Yeah.
It's provided by insurance medically, so
Mhm.
why can't they view it like that?
Yeah,
Man, that's tough.
it's been very challenging. Yeah. So, all of the, autism families out there, who are just, even if you're still in the same house, but you have some divide there. If you are going through a separation like I am and, struggling with the co-parent on making sure that, these things are being met at both homes for the child's sake, I hear you. I'm walking this journey with you, and the court system needs to update
Yeah.
in a lot of ways for special needs children.
Well, and if you have any insight you can provide, Erica, I'm sure she'll
Please.
take it.
Yes.
If you've dealt with this and know how to create the verbiage around it to where it can be viewed as a necessary, a legal binding document that can provide that clarity for you and the protection that Luca needs to be able to have his voice everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
That's incredibly disappointing
Yeah.
on a lot of ends, but
Yes. There's multiple levels of disappointment, but yeah, that's just something. So yeah, if you are an attorney in South Carolina, call me. No, because
even in another practicing state and
Yeah,
has the ability to give some insight, we would love, and we can share it on here as something you ought to know
yeah,
for their child. But
Yeah.
it'd be great to,
yeah, because it's been like gut wrenching to try to get people to understand this.
yeah,
It's like, well, just have to deal with it. It's like, no.
I know. It's one of those things where it's like you don't know until you know, and you're trying to let them know. And so now that they know, how are they going to protect Luca around that?
Right.
Oh,
So,
that's
yeah.
frustrating. That's worth a whole bottle of wine.
Yes.
That is absolutely worth that.
We will pop a bottle of wine at some point over that one.
Well, my
Yours.
wine about it, we've already whined basically about it, is just the don't tell me I did this because I didn't.
Right.
And don't tell me I didn't do this because I wasn't even thinking that I did.
Right.
So that's my wine about it is, I agree with the grieving process and someone who's in the thick of their grief and the guilt that comes along with that process. I understand if you internalized it and thought like, I may have done this. I've done that same thing.
Yeah. We've both been there, I think.
Yeah. But I'm saying that's an internal grief process that I don't think needs to be said on such a large platform. Now you've given this voice to this rhetoric of that it's mothers being bashed and shamed and blamed, and no one has done that.
Right.
It's an internal dialogue that we carry ourselves, that's our responsibility to process and to navigate, and then also to maybe like in a small group or with your best friend to be able to like workshop it and talk it out and talk therapy, other things. But to put it out there in such a public negative rhetoric way, that's my whine about it, is why is it now? I just don't want to, every new research item that comes out, every little thing that could be pointed to something I did ingest or something I did take or whatever, I'm not taking ownership that I did that.
Right. If you took Tylenol during your pregnancy and it does come out that that is definitively a cause at some point, then please understand you still didn't cause this. You took something that was being recommended to you by the medical community and proven to be safe, or we thought was proven to be safe. So like this isn't a blame shift. This is let's help the kids the kids who are not born yet, who may go on to receive a diagnosis. And this is also with the leucovorin, which is going to be next week's topic. How do we help the kids that are already affected? There's a lot of funding that's out there now, not just for research. I hope that we can get more funding, even just for the therapies, ABA therapy. I mean, we know what the wait lists are like around here. So there's so much more funding that can be poured into things like this to help kids that are already affected. However, I just want to say this one last piece on the Let's Whine About It. I've really been struggling, and it's probably over like the last like 2 to 4 weeks here that I've really been struggling, and I'm hearing more and more people kind of that I speak to feel the same way. The level 1 community, and I'm so proud of how they have overcome so much, and they are using their voices that I know they had to work hard and still often have to work hard to be able to find or under pressure find. So like, please, I'm not taking anything away from them. However, their journey and our journey is totally, totally different. I want everybody to please pause, respect my journey. I respect your journey. But please respect and understand that what I deal with on a day in and day out basis is nothing like what you deal with on a day in and day out basis. It is very different. And yes, I understand autism is a spectrum. I'm not so sure, though, that we don't need to have some level of separation here.
I absolutely agree with that. I think that's definitely a great conversation for us to like build on in another time. I have a lot that I could share my opinions on that with also, but great statement. I agree.
Yeah.
I respect level 1. Level 2 sometimes even has an easier life experience than the level 3s, and sometimes they don't. There's, again, it's a spectrum, but just like you said, we absolutely respect all levels and spectrum, where you're at on the variability of it. But please just don't discredit and disregard our lived experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's different. And this is something we can build on again in another topic, but I will say there is a huge difference in being the actually autistic movement that's happening right now and the autism parent movement that's happening right now. Raising an actually autistic person is a totally different lived experience than being the actually autistic person.
Exactly.
And there's different perspectives in that. Don't discredit the mothers that are speaking out on how hard it is because you're now at a level 1 and thriving in your life. Well, okay, your mama or your dada or anybody in your caregiving realm got you there. So let's lift those voices as well. We're not discrediting their voice and their lived experience, but on the other end of the spectrum, don't discredit the parents and the caregivers that are in the thick of it to get you to a point where you're thriving in this life.
How much money did they spend? Like, and I would spend every dime I have, right? That's not what I'm saying. How much money did they spend? How much time did they spend? How much time away from their other child or children did they spend? How much of their heart and soul was poured into getting you to where you are. Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed, because it is a very different experience. And, that's what we sign up for as moms. Yeah. Not taking that away or like being like, give us a gold star for just doing what we do, right?
I'll take one.
I'll take one. But that's not what I'm asking for. I think just the understanding of if you're there, yay. Like, kudos, round of applause, but not just to you, to your whole village that helped to get you there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great way to close that one out. Let's move into your things you ought to know. What should you ought to know about this week? Well, it's that Leucovorin is now FDA approved. They are expediting the production of it, the manufacturing of it. They say it's going to be a lot like ivermectin, where it's going to be really hard to find for a little bit. Stay with it. Stay on top of your provider. I have had to stay on top of mine and try to get, because when it wasn't FDA approved, there was some hesitancy there from your end, and please speak to that if you want to.
Yeah.
Not on your end, but your, just the community you're a part of and and how to prescribe it.
Yes.
But the fact that it's FDA approved and it's being expedited in production is huge. I have a little tip after you speak on that I can tell you, if you're in the interim and you're waiting for a prescription, there may be an alternative solution that's over the counter that I can share with you that I want you to know about. So
yeah,
go ahead and.
Yeah. I think exactly what you said. Stay on top of your provider, and continue just to advocate for it. Again, people are going to have views on this, and some providers, if that happens, bypass them and go to another one. If you want this for your child, I say bypass that provider who's giving you the stop sign and go get it. And it is not as simple as like from day one to day two getting it. We have to figure out the dosing and things like that. But it is something that has enough science behind it that, like I said, my own child is on it. And there are some other things about it that we'll dive into next week. But there are some other things about taking this leucovorin that you have to kind of be aware of to get best efficacy.
And that's not being spoken about yet. I haven't heard it.
It is not being
It's
spoken
kind of
about.
like an underground, it's not working, so they told me to modify this. So next week we'll dive into all that you need to know about it.
Yeah.
But I
Best
think
kept secret. Stay tuned because
Yeah.
I saw a big change.
Okay, cool. I'm excited to hear. I haven't heard this.
Yep.
So let me give a little bit of tip too that you ought to know about. If you are having trouble getting access to leucovorin right now, whether it be a manufacturing issue, insurance issue, whatever it could be, prescribing issue, there is a pharmacist that I follow
Mhm.
that came out and spoke about. I'm going to put it into the camera so you can possibly see this, but it is the 5-MTHF. L-methylfolate, basically. It's got plus methylated B12 vitamin in it. I have heard that it can be just as effective if given correctly and in the right parameters, like you're probably going to talk about next week with this. But that's just start looking into that. I purchased it off of Amazon. I think it was like $20 for the vial. So we have not started that with Porter just yet, but I can give an update, and we're hoping to start it this week. And then you'll have plenty of updates for us with Leuco.
I have updates, and yes, I have some things that just kind of, I have like caution points to give with it as well. Like nothing that I think you should not still trial it, but there's some things that you need to be aware of as you are trialing this medication.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, if you're part of our Facebook group, if you're not, join it. If you are, let's talk about this. Let's continue the conversation into the private Facebook group. I can tell you our goal is always to provide a judgment-free platform to provide things that you ought to know about the autism community. So it will be monitored in the Facebook group. You don't have to worry about coming in there and being berated and, called a horrible mom like I was on TikTok, but it's a safe space. So if you're not part of it, please join us over there to continue the conversation. I want to hear about your leucovorin experiences. Maybe we can read some of your feedback on it next week as part of our episode. But really, please get involved in our online community. And then if you don't already follow us on social media, things you ought to know. You can watch us on YouTube, things you ought to know. It's sometimes a little hard to find, but we're in there, and we'll have it linked in our Instagram bio. But continue to follow us, and we're going to continue the conversation. You know us, we're going to be open and transparent, and we do it with love.
That's right.
All right.
All right.
Bye, y'all.
See y'all next week.